Hello everybody, I'm Key, and this is Medieval Engineers. Okay, and let's jump right in. Now this is going to be a guide or key to Medieval Engineers. I'm going to cover some more of the complexities or difficult situations you may come across while playing the game when you first start out. May even show you some tricks and I guess helpful tips on how to get started and a better understanding hopefully of the game, and hope this helps everybody out, and then we'll go from here. We'll get started by first going over the tools. This will cover the key bindings as well as the in-game tools. To get started on covering the key bindings, we can first start by pressing the F1 key. This will open up the help or key bindings menu. Now this will show a full listing of all the possible key bindings in the game. Now, some of the more tricky ones I guess you'd stumble upon would be if you accidentally press the cap locks key while you're playing. It's actually underneath the character menu. It will actually switch between walk and run. So if you accidentally press that and wonder why you're no longer jogging and now you're suddenly walking and you have a barbarian hunting you down, well, now you know to press the caps locks key and hopefully it saves your life. And then the other helpful tip is underneath the tools is that each tool in the game has not only a primary but also a secondary action. So that means you can left click, right click, and you can also see that it does have a middle mouse button. Now those are, I would say, more unique or rare to certain tools. Now I'll go into covering how the actual tools in the game work. First, start by pressing the G key. This will open up what is known as the G menu, or this is basically the menu that you can search up any item in the game. You can do so by either selecting the tabs on the left hand side. You can even create your own category of items if you wish. But on the left hand side I already picked the tools and weapons. That's what you see here. This is currently listing all of the available weapons or tools in the game. Now I can go up to the top here and I can type in shovel, for example. And this is probably the best example to show you all the available options, because the tools are going to range anything from wooden all the way up to steel. Of course, wooden being the worst and steel being the best, at least at the moment. And then there's also iron, copper, and bronze. Now the way most of these work, because most of these require the actual metal to get, is you'd have to go find the metal, and then once you have the metal you'd be able to then create the tool. Now the one that doesn't need the metal, of course, is the wooden one, so you'll be starting out with wooden tools. So now that I just roughly previewed and showed you through the G menu all the available tools that you can make, there is also another, I want to say, set of tools that you have, which if you look down on the bottom of my screen there, you'll see on the 0 location on the hotbar there's a hand. Now you cannot have a tool active to use this, so if I have a tool I can just press 0 and it will switch right over to what is known as the hand tool. Now what this does is it allows me to then pick up items. They have to be loose. So what I'm going to show is I'll chop down this tree real quick, and then I'm going to, after cutting it down, I'm going to chop it up, and now I have a log. So I definitely don't have a base set up here, so say if it's further away off in the distance and I need to transport it, and I haven't got around to making a cart or doing any other means of transporting my goods yet, is what I can do is, well, I'll have to press the 0 key, switch to my hand tool, and by default, if I go up to it and you see the outline or around the object that you want to pick up, or you get prompted with the multiple different options, as you could see roughly in the middle of the screen there. If I left click on the item, I'll actually pick it up with my character, and I'm actually just carrying this around. You can do this with single and items that they have to be smaller, and they also have to be loose or dynamic. Now, the other tool that your player has available by default is going to be known as the rope tool. So if you go up to the item and you right click on it, you'll notice a rope comes from your character. Now it's going to start at green, and then it will go all the way from yellow to red. And green meaning that the rope is firmly connected, going from yellow, and then red means it's about to break. So this applies to not only how fast the item is going, but also the weight, as you can see if I drag it around. So see, since it was rolling in that direction so quick, it just snaps my rope, the log goes rolling away, and then it's just loose to go cause havoc. Now I've had it where I was carrying a really heavy cart up a hill and my friend was right behind me, and the rope just snapped as we tried to go up a steeper part of the hill, and my friend just got completely leveled because the cart was so heavy and my rope tool was unable to pull the cart up. So it's, it's pretty handy, but I wouldn't rely on the rope tool for everything, because after all, you are supposed to engineer in this game, and you should be able to come up with your own many different creative ways on how to engineer your own solutions. So next, I think I'm going to go into covering the farming and land shaping of the game. As for farming, all you have to do is you go around the game, you find items for farming, and you'll be able to then really just be able to farm with them. The best way to explain it is, not everything is farmable, at least in the vanilla or in the game by default. You need to find certain items to be able to farm. But after finding the items and after you have the proper research, you will be able to then convert those items into seeds in which you can farm. For example, this wheat here. If I go up, you'd just be able to pick wild wheat. And now I have my first wheat after I get 5 of them. And this is actually flax here. This is actually probably more unique or rare to find depending on where you're located in the world. But once I have 5 of each of those, you'll be able to turn them into seeds. Now if I go back into the G menu, now I can get rid of shovel and I'll type in seeds, and this shows all the available seeds in the game that you can make for farming. Now there is cabbage seeds, flax seeds, herbal plant seeds, pumpkin seeds, and wheat seeds. Again, after obtaining the proper research, all you have to do then, once you're able to make the seed bags, is you go around and you have to collect, I believe it's about 5 of each plant, and then you'll be able to make the seeds. Now the other thing you're going to need to do after you get the seeds, so for example, we'll say I got some wheat seeds. I'm going to also need a plow. And it's going to be a hand plow. What this is going to do is this is going to allow me to till the land, just like you would in real life. So I can go anywhere in the world. Well, I don't want to say anywhere because, of course, you can't go over and start farming on the middle of the mountainside there, but anywhere with dirt, I should say. And then if you just left click, it will turn it into soil on which you can now farm on. So you just then grab your seeds and you're able to just throw them down wherever you want. Now there is a small proximity in which you can't place them next to each other, but it's going to be more trial and error to figure out how to properly plant. To get started with changing the landscape or editing the voxel in the game, I'm going to show the very basics on how to do it. You can probably figure out a couple different ways to do so. The first would be in creative by using the voxel tools, and then what I'm going to demonstrate is in survival. If you wanted to then customize the terrain or your own land to make it however you want. So first I'm going to start off by getting some timbers, which these are a pretty common resource that you come across pretty early on. Just crafting them from some logs is that I can then scroll wheel either up or down to move it further or closer to me. And what I'll do is I'm actually gonna just square off this area here to show how I'd be able to just use the landscaping stakes to then customize the terrain here. Okay, now that I got the timber frame set out, I know this isn't too extreme, but it's good enough to at least just show off how these stakes are going to work. But I would recommend keeping to either a square or rectangular shape. After you, I would say go past that and try to make some kind of unique shapes, then it can get a little wonky on if it accepts it or not. But now that I have the stakes down, there is one other item I'm going to need, which is going to be rope. You'll actually have to make this rope in the game, and then once you have the rope, you activate it, and then I then click, and you'll see the rope coming from the stake. I take it to the next one, and then I just connect them all together. Now I'm going to show right before I connect this last one is if I then go and pull out my shovel, you'll be able to see how the landscape looks right now before I go through and actually change it. So as you can see, there's a little drop off on this side, and for some reason I just want to level it out. Maybe I want to make it like a little garden, and then I'll build like a house right in here. So let me connect this last little part here of the garden, and this will make my rough square. Now that I pull out the shovel, you'll notice there is now a plane, a white plane. And what this is this is the height that is going to be affected from the stakes. Now that they're all connected, it's going to allow me to edit the terrain up to that height. Now if I go over and I left click, it's not going to let me dig, but it will let me place. But oh no, I don't have dirt. So what I'm going to need is I'm going to now need dirt. So there, I'll give myself a bunch of dirt. And if I go over and I right click, you see I'll just start to fill it in. And it'll just gradually bring it up to that height. And you'll be able to just fill this in all the way. Now, what I recommend, we don't have to worry about it in this case, since it's such a low height right here. But if you have pretty deep areas that you're attempting to use with the stakes, I would recommend, before connecting it completely, to fill it in with the shovel manually before using the landscape stakes, because those actually can be more frustrating. Because as you see actually right now, that it only gradually moves the dirt, and it could take quite a while as it's just barely budging. And then another useful tip to avoid that is, say for some reason I want to dig down right here because, I don't know, let's say it's actually, I don't know, I want to have it like lower right here for some reason, but I already have it connected and it's a bigger area. I can actually ignore the white plane that the stakes are giving off by holding in shift. So now I can dig. So it's not, I just brought this down lower than the actual plane. As you can see, I'm bringing it down, and there we go. I did that by holding in shift while then using the shovel with either the left or right click. But I'll go ahead and fill this all back in. But again, if you are doing this at an extreme height or filling in like a bigger hole, I would recommend definitely filling it in manually before using the stakes, because it can get a little iffy on how it properly fills it in. Now, this might be a problem you run into when terraforming or land shaping. Is, if you notice, I'll deactivate my shovel. I have this odd looking, I guess, texture in the ground where it almost looks like it's stretched out. And then if I'm having issues placing the dirt, that generally means that there's an air pocket in the ground. So if I hold in shift to ignore the white plane of the stakes, I'll dig down, and yes, there was. So what I want to do is I just want to be more careful when I place it down and try to fill in all the gaps. Yep, and as you can see, it's still giving me issues. So I'm probably going to have to fool around with this for a little while until I figure it out. Now this can be pretty frustrating. I know it was pretty annoying starting out as a new player and you're like, oh, why isn't this working? Because I know I've probably spent a good little bit trying to just figure out how the voxel and land will actually shape to what you want it to be, because it doesn't properly fill in, as you can see right here. But I'll be back in 1 second after I finish filling this in. So what I ended up doing is, since it was giving me difficulty when actually leveling it back up, is I just held in shift and ignored the plane, because the land stakes were actually negatively affecting how I wanted to flatten this area. Which, they're not all necessarily, you know, good or worth using, but in most cases, especially if you want to make like a nice flat area, for whatever reason, I know common one's probably generally going to be for a road, or if you do want to make some kind of farm or whatnot. But as you can see here, I'm now done leveling it out, and it's pretty flat. I could sit there and work the land a bit more and get it even probably flatter and more evened out, but this is good enough just to show you guys how the land shaping works in the game. So next I'm going to cover the building aspects of the game. This is probably one of the bigger ones that a lot of you are interested in. Now first things first is I'm going to start with a wooden support here. I'll shove it so it's just sticking out of the hillside here. And then when I grab a floor, I'll act as if I want to put the floor on the wooden support, and it doesn't do that. The reason for that is that this game has something known as compound building, which that means it allows multiple blocks to be inside the same area. And what this is doing is that it's allowing both these blocks to be within the same area in which the wooden support is. So that means that you'll see exactly what you see here will happen, that the floor then will go to the bottom. So what a lot of people do, they'll be confused when they put the floor down and be like, wait, where did the floor go? And then it'll just sink to the bottom and then place another on top. So in order to get around this, you can place your support, then you come over with the floor and you can hold in shift, and that will ignore the compound building. It will do the opposite of whatever compound building mode you're in. Now to toggle between turning compound building on and off, you press Z, and then as you can see I just turned it off, and then say for some reason I need to turn it on, I can press shift, and then it will allow me to do that again. And then I'll be able to just press shift to go back and forth between turning it on and off, and then Z will just toggle it off, letting me then be able to place my floors as much as I want, connected off the previous floor. So the next confusing thing with building would be structural integrity. This means you have to take not only the height but also the weight and support of the structure into account. So if I build something that's larger than what it should be, as you can see, it will collapse under its own weight and topple over. Now this is really awesome when you're doing a siege on somebody. You come rolling up with a catapult or some crazy engineered contraption and try to demolish the enemy's walls, and you'll just see them crumble into tiny little pieces as you see here. So next I'll go into demonstrating how the engineering is going to work. Now what I have here is I have a timber. I'm gonna pull this timber out. I'll make a support on the ground, and then I'll make what is going to look like, I'll say about an H shape to it. And then you rotate the blocks by using the insert, delete, home, end, page up, and page down keys. You can use Q and E, but then those only move it in the two different axes. And then I'm going to place catch blocks on the edge. Now I call this almost like, imagine it as like a frame for the cart, and this is how you'd be able to not only build carts but a lot of other creations in the game. Now I have the carts, and then what I'm going to do is I'll throw wheels on, and make sure you get it right in the middle of the catch blocks there, because the catch blocks allow for rotation. Then you also want to make sure the wheels are facing the right way, otherwise they'll catch on to the catch blocks or close by blocks, and they'll actually cause friction and possibly not even move. But now what I'll do is I'll go over delete or pick up the supporting block, and I now have a cart. And this is the very basics to the engineering in the game. And you'll be able to push it around, even drag it with your rope. And then I can right click to disable my rope. I can even shove it down this hill if I want. And you can expand from here, throwing on the variation of stockpiles to even trying to make your own catapults. So now that I finished covering the building and engineering aspect of the game, I'm going to briefly cover the claiming. So what you're going to need for that is the lay claim, research, and then after learning that, you go into the G menu, drag the claim block onto your hotbar, and then as you can see, there's actually a white perimeter. And the way this works is there's squared areas in the world. If you press the M button, there is the local maps, and then you can right click, and then this is the kingdom map. And over in the top left on the map, there is the world map with the different regions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to claim this area that I'm currently at. So I'll go over and I will place the claim block. Now that I have the claim block placed, I simply just wait for the contested time to go down, and then this area will now be mine. Now that it's under being contested, it will show as mine, but then anyone can still come over and mess with the area until the time is up. Generally it's not too long, and as you should now notice that there'll be a green outline around the border of this squared off area that I have. And now this is all fully mine, it's protected. The biggest thing it protects fully is the voxel or the ground. Nobody else except you or who you give permission to can edit the terrain. As for the buildings, nobody can access the doors unless you give them permission as well. Along with nobody can access your claim in terms of paying it or respawning there unless you give permission. Now, your area can still be damaged and looted if not properly protected. That'd be the biggest thing you have to worry about when claiming an area. And this should cover basically all of the more confusing or difficult aspects of medieval engineers you may come across. And I hope this video helped. And remember to, first off, like the video if this helped you, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.